Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been, I saw the movie again today and it was wonderful. We will be starting our Q&A in just a second, and Shweta is going to come up and introduce both the filmmaker and our moderator for tonight. But just like always, I wanted to let you know how this Q&A works. If you do have any questions, please put it in the chat or in the Q&A tab in the chat. Either one is fine. We will be taking note of that. And after the moderator has finished with the Q&A, we will throw the floor open to the audience, and we might ask you to turn on your mic and camera, and that will allow you to, and you should be able to come on stage, ask your questions, and then please turn your mic and camera off once the filmmaker has answered your question. So Shweta, if you want to come up on stage and introduce everybody. I know Deepti and Patricia are excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, what a fabulous film. So I'm not going to delay this, and I want to welcome Patricia Vonne, our moderator for the night, and Deepti Gupta, the filmmaker, on stage. So Patricia, you can turn on your camera.
Welcome to the Texas premiere. It is an honor to be here tonight with Deepti Gupta. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you for taking time to receive the film with so much love and, talking to me.
Wow. Well, let's start with your journey. Tell us about your journey and how you came to America. And you studied at the university. Did you study at the University of Texas in Austin? Or tell us about your journey.
I live in India, and I studied at the Film Institute of India.
Okay.
Yeah, so I grew up around New Delhi, and I went to, my film school is the oldest and the best known film school from the country. So that's where I went to study cinematography.
So tell us a little bit about your childhood. Like, how did you come, where did your influences come from to become the filmmaker that you are?
I kind of remember being 4.5 years old and wanting to be a photographer since the first time my father taught me how to look through a camera. So it started with that. And I think the cinema of the 60s and 70s in India was a big influence for me because it was a cinema of social change. And it was also entertaining, but it was, it was very, very inspiring cinema of our times. So when I landed up at the Film Institute, and I started watching cinema from all over the world because we would have screenings every single day from films from different countries. I think, the journey became complete, and I understood that one has to look within oneself to tell the stories that you really believe in.
Wow. Well, this documentary is an ambitious undertaking of 3 years and 18 cities. Take us through the process of making this film, and did you run into any obstacles?
Well, I think when Sona and I kind of jumped into it, we jumped into it without knowing the scale of what we were jumping into. But both of us, in our own ways, are very, very, what's the word for it in English? Like we aim to really dig deep within ourselves, both of us, and, do our absolute best to craft whatever it is that we are crafting, she in her music and me in filmmaking. So we realized that for us, the journey is to dig deep within and come up with something. And I feel both of us kind of were feeling like there are walls around us in our professional careers, and this film became a catharsis of that for both.
Had you always been aware of the struggle of female performers in India like Sona? And how did your collaboration with Sona come about?
So, see, I wasn't aware of the struggle of female musicians or singers at all. I knew Sona for the last 14 years. I got to know her because I directed a music video for her. And at that time, I think both of us were in kind of beginning stages of our career. And neither of us had any idea what we are each going to face in our professional careers at all. So when we started comparing notes more than a decade later as friends and, as being invested in each other's journeys, I saw that there are deep parallels to her story as a filmmaker and mine, to her story as a musician and mine as a filmmaker. And but the way she expresses herself using her music and the way she protests is not something I had seen before. It's extremely unique. I don't know any other person who could have told this story. For I felt I was telling a story on behalf of so many women who go through the same thing, but Sona is the perfect, you know poster person to do that with.
Exactly. I agree.
There's no one like her. Yeah.
Wow, she's unstoppable. Like you're unstoppable women. Personally speaking, being a Mexican American, me, and seeing Bollywood films of people unabashedly celebrating freedom and through dance and song and expression, I was stunned and shocked to see your film and Sona's reality and struggle of self-expression. Can you share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, see, Bollywood films, they've informed a lot of our upbringing in one way. Music is very central to our lives, so it's no surprise that music became central to Bollywood films and the business of Bollywood films too. But the fact that the number of duets or the number of female solos have been sharply decreasing is something that I wasn't aware of before I knew Sona kind of taking on, the whole industry in a way. So, yeah.
And why did you feel it was important to make this film?
I felt it's very important to bring forth women who are struggling for equality. And Sona is the perfect person to see that journey through because she is saying it like it is, like no one else. She's bearing her soul like no one else, She's fighting the fight in a way that it really makes people like me thoughtful, because my protest has always been a very internal protest through work. But her protest is very vocal. She claims her stage, she claims her song, she claims her presence, all to say the same thing. It's deeply inspiring. And I felt like there is always a price to pay for that protest, which you see in the film. There's a price to pay for women who want to be who they are and want to be equal at any given point. But I felt an inspiring story needed to be told. In the Me Too era, when especially in India, not too many aggressors were punished, it's very important to see women who have kind of been on top of that wave and made it happen and not been put down.
Mm-hmm. How have audiences in different countries responded to the film?
That was a pleasant surprise to me. The first time the film was screened in India, it was a houseful show. People were laughing through the film, and by the end of the screening, some people were crying. And to my shock, it was exactly the same at Rotterdam. It was exactly the same in Gothenburg. And after that, of course, there was COVID, and our film went to Hot Docs and Sheffield and all these fantastic festivals. But I didn't have the good fortune to meet the audience. But the response has been shockingly similar. In fact, in Rotterdam and Gothenburg, I would ask the audience, we come from a third world country where we are still fighting the fight of women being equal. Why are you crying? but you sit in this third world country and you think legally so many battles have been won in Europe, or the US, but things are very, very similar. Back in our houses, we are still fighting the same fight. Yeah.
What is your hope that people will take away from this film?
I don't know. I'm taking away so much from this film. There's so much that is expressed in this film, which is from very deep within. The love for one's country, the love for music, the kind of inherent patriarchy which has gone on in our country for years and years and years, and how it's only in the last 100 years that women in the world have sat up and have been able to speak or be heard. I mean, voting rights are hardly, in human history, they're that old. I just feel people can take away what they need, but I feel at the end of it, it's it's an inspiring story. It's a story of a struggle, but it's filled with love. So yeah.
You can feel that. You can feel that. And you, Deepti, are a woman, an inspiring woman of empowerment in a male-dominated sector of the film industry and show business. You know, what advice would you give to other women pursuing a career in filmmaking?
Not much, I think. Don't let anyone else define you. I guess there is no more than that. That takes a lifetime to learn, because in the beginning, if people put you down, you kind of take it seriously and you wonder, is this my shortcoming? Really? Can I do this? Like, you know, I was used to be told that in the beginning of my career, because I'm 4'11" and I wanted to lift a 18-kilo camera and run with it. So there was a lot of questions, but I think it's at the end of the day, you can't let anyone define you. Exactly, like that's what Sona shows in the film.
Exactly. And what was your favorite part of the film? Did you have a favorite part, or that speaks to you every time you see it?
Favorite part of the film?
Yeah.
I have quite a few, but one of them is the sequence with the Kathak dancer and Sona, and the relationship that emerges between them, because that's where kind of the sisterhood gets set up. And I feel that it's a kind of a reflection of my relationship with Sona also. It's a celebration of music. It's about women coming together. There's a questioning of set patterns of gender in that sequence. You know, the way they say so-called male and female. I felt some things just beautifully came about in it. And I feel it's just masterwork by Arjun, our editor.
One of my favorite scenes, but there are many, was when she's standing her ground, owning that stage, headlining, and thanking the audience for bringing her there, and her, you know, being her authentic self and being able to, you know, self-expression, right? She embodies the spirit of her beloved country on that stage at that moment. It just made me cry.
Yes. Yeah.
Many
Absolutely.
parts made me
And
cry.
this is a Sona speciality. When she's on stage, she speaks to, you know, lakhs of her audience, and the way she's talking to them, people feel like she's talking to each one.
Exactly.
Individually. Yeah.
Well,
She's
do we
amazing.
want to open up the floor to questions?
Yes, and I think Sona is here, so I am actually going to add her so that she can also come on stage and, you know, answer questions that I don't know, Deepti, if you've been able to look at the chat, but there are so many people who have loved the film, loved what you did, just the cinematography and the way that you captured those small moments. One of my other favorite parts was kind of the part where you shot Sona eating during that shoot. That was just such a fun, just a, you know, scene out of the life of scene. It was so good. Sona, if you can turn your camera on and your mic on maybe, and you'll be able to join us on the stage. Let's give it a couple of seconds.
There's some lovely questions here. Yeah, the scene with the male singers in a small room. I suppose this means the dargah, I suppose.
Yes, I think that is what. So let me actually start off with some of the questions, and then I think maybe Christine, you can check with Sona, see if she's able to get onto the stage. In the meanwhile, I will be kind of shuffling the audience questions to you. So let's start with Christina. Christina, I am going to ask you to turn on your camera if you wish, and you can ask your question to Deepti.
Oh, here we go. Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Wonderful. My question is something I ask documentarians every time I get the opportunity to, because you have so much material that you're condensing into 2 hours. What was the scene or narrative thread or piece that you had to leave on the cutting room floor?
Oh, there was quite a bit of that. There was some I remember this one beautiful performance of Sona's outside an ancient temple in Orissa, which would move my heart every time I would hear her sing. But every time we put it in the edit, it would make the narrative kind of hold on for too long, and it would switch you out of the main crisis in the film. Those are always very, very, very difficult decisions to make, you know. Yeah, there was quite a few things. Our first cut was 2 hours 15 minutes long, and it took a long time condensing it down to this 85 minutes that you see now. Yeah, and strangely, the narrative thread of a documentary arrives. It's there in your mind and your soul, but it's actually you're arriving at it at the edit table. So it took us, yeah, it took us a while to get that. And the controversy that you see in the film happened actually towards the end of our filming. So it's in film structure that we told the story the way it is, because the fact is every controversy in Sona's life represents so many other controversies, because they all have the same source code, that, you know, to bring in that and how to string it in the narrative was not an easy job. Yeah. Did I answer it enough? Or
Yes, thank you.
I think you did a really great job with that. I felt like almost, oh my God, I was like, how did you know all of these things would come up while you were shooting the documentary, all of these huge sort of crises? So let's move on.
you never know in a documentary.
I know exactly. It's like, it looks so well done.
You just bet on your protagonist, and when you have a protagonist like Sona, things are going to happen. It's as simple as that.
I think that was it, you know, just the yeah, the events came as they did, and you were able to capture them with a lot of grace and a lot of context around it. I think Ram had a question somewhat along those lines. Ram, I'm going to ask you to come up on stage. I know you had a couple of questions. So, yeah, feel free to ask.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Ram. I've been reading your questions.
All right.
Yeah.
Deepti, you are
many of
you
them.
are a fabulous filmmaker.
I'm not getting clear sound.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me better now?
I can't hear the. I can't hear.
Oh, okay. She's.
Yeah.
Now you can hear.
Good.
Okay. Yeah. I was going to say that you are a wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful filmmaker, and you know I've been away from India for 30 years, and seeing such talent, you know, all the upcoming films and today's film, you and others making such great films is going to be absolutely, you know, for me, it's very heartwarming. So thank you so much. And so my question to you is, you know, Sona seems to be highly, you know, I looked at Ram and, you know, my name is Ram as well. And she, you know, she is trying to moderate Sona's attitude toward, you know, life and all that stuff, right? And he was having such a difficult time.
Yeah.
So my question to you as a filmmaker is, how was it working with Sona to make a film, and how much voice she had in your editing and filmmaking in the final product?
Okay, that's a great question. It's yeah. So in the editing and sorry, I'm hearing my own voice.
Mute yourself. Thank you.
Okay. So in the editing and the making of the film, Sona never put any, you know, conditions or anything at all. I think we started out as two friends who deeply respect each other's voices, and that was kind of very important all through. And if you're looking for it, you spot it in the film. She had absolutely no. She didn't force the edit into anything at all. In fact, for a year and a half, I don't think she saw anything. But you know, to shoot someone who's such a mammoth artist and a friend is always kind of a difficult thing, you know. And here is this strong-minded woman, but I think we were always working with a lot of trust in each other. There was no point where she told me, "Don't film this," or "That makes me vulnerable." Nothing. In fact, I know that she completely stood by whatever editing decisions that I had to make, before she saw the film, she was very clear that however it is that you want to say it, whatever light you want to show me in, is fine with me. Even if you want to show some weaknesses or anything like that. But I think I have the eyes of love for Sona, for what she does and what she brings to, the debate in our country and to her music. The journey for me as after I started direct some of her music videos, I directed some of her music videos, I completely fell in love with her voice. If I sit in a room with her singing, I get goosebumps. So that's where, a lot of my being able to be alone and intimate with her comes from. It's from a very mutual affection for each other. So yeah, having said that, an artist is always like a flame. You have to guard that flame. An artist has moods, they feel things because they have to bring their art in from so deep inside them. So one has to take care of it a little bit. And there were times that I couldn't express what I wanted, but that's part of the filmmaking. It's yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Going to move on to, I think, sorry.
That's lovely questions you've just asked in that thread. It's nice.
Thanks, Ram. Thank you for asking those questions, and thanks for joining us. So next question comes from Ani. I know Ani had a question, and Charlie sort of answered it. But Ani, if you want to come on stage and just talk through some of your comments. Give me 1 second. I think you do have access, Ani. Thanks.
Can you hear me? Okay. So, hi Deepti. The movie was a lovely movie. I really enjoyed the way the camera operated. It made me feel like I was in the room, kind of being able to participate or feeling like, and especially when Sona sang, it was really beautiful to see that. So, really enjoyed the movie, and also saw how I saw that you were the director of photography, and I saw that she was addressing you a few times. So it seemed like it was you who was doing all the camera work, and that was amazing to see that, to see you operating, and gives it's quite inspiring for upcoming filmmakers. The question I had was, I was just going over Wikipedia, and maybe this is not the only forum where all her songs are listed, but then 2016 to 2020, there has been a dip in the number of performances Sona has given, maybe only in new song releases. Maybe she's been more focused on live performances. But do you know any reason? Could the movie, it came out in 2019, I saw, could the movie have affected the possibly her roles in some of these in new movies that are coming out? Or do you know anything that could have resulted in that drip?
See, it's you should ask Sona actually this question once she comes on board. But I do think she was also extremely busy with this filming, and it's a film that we were self-producing, and it's by no means that that was not a mammoth task. Besides, she has released many new songs. You just have to look for them. Actually, even some film songs. She's released a lot of stuff during this time. Yeah. And she's a person who's so hugely focused on her own music and her own releases. She's not reliant on Bollywood. I mean, you see all that in the film.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm trained as a cinematographer, so that's where my that's where the double role kind of comes from. Yeah.
Thank you for the answer.
Yeah, I think hopefully we should have Sona on soon. It seems like she has a laptop, and so she's trying to join from her phone. I think one of our team members are working on that. In the meanwhile, I think, Deepti, we will continue asking you questions. There are still some more people who are asking questions, so we'll just continue this. And someone else is taking care to make sure that Sona also gets on stage and gets a chance to have a voice in this as well.
Yeah, she would love to answer this. She has a lot of new releases. I mean, we should ask
Oh,
her
I
to
would
sing some
love
of
that.
those.
Oh my God. I think like everybody else, every time the music
Yeah.
came on, everybody had goosebumps, like you're saying. I can't even imagine. And I wish I was lucky enough to see a live performance, but maybe sometime. So our next question comes from Geetika.
I can tell you're truly a cinematographer because you had some lovely shots, especially one with her just her eyes and the expression where she's upset about reading a text, and then you're shooting her from outside a room where she's watching herself on TV, and you just show her like sitting and relaxing with and so you can tell that cinematography is probably your first love. But a very well made film, and you've already answered the question about how it was received around the world. But have you released it in India, and how was it received in India?
It was received with immense love in India. Each screening in India has been a houseful screening with people waiting outside who can't get in. So, no, we've had a very, very warm response in India, but the film is still in its festival run, and release is, I think, going to happen soon enough. Yeah. But as far as cinematography being my first love, it's like, it would be like for Sona, you can't separate her music from the stands that she takes. And I'm not able to separate filmmaking from cinematography any longer. I feel it's high time that we are at a point in history where women have to take everything that they know and they've experienced to put it in their work. So this film, shooting a documentary, is as a cinematographer is in a way, it's more, you have to have eyes of the soul, but you don't have any paraphernalia at all. Usually, when I shoot films as a DP for some other people, there's a ton of lights. You can bring in glamour if you want, but in this film, that wasn't the intention or the job. It would have completely, taken away from anything. But yeah, as far as documentary is concerned, if you're seeing beauty, then it'll have to translate on screen, and it's your politics that translates on screen actually. So I can't separate the cinematography from the filmmaking any longer.
And especially the scene where she talks about how she wrote to other female artists and she didn't get a response back. That was also very powerful. So
Yeah.
hopefully that is changing now. And maybe this documentary will help. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, like you see in the last slates, it's already changing because she has kicked up such a big fuss about it. And that's what the slate says, that the numbers are going up, but they're not inviting her because there's a price for being a troublemaker. That's precisely what the film is about. It's called Shut Up because that's what a troublemaker is told.
reminded me of myself when I was growing up in Delhi. So that was well done. It was really
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Delhi is a difficult place. Yeah.
I think Christine, if you can come on stage, Christine's going to sort of take over moderating this, and I will be doing my main job, which is going to be tech check for Sona, see what's happening, and hopefully we can have her on soon. Christine, do you want to jump in really quick? Or Alka, anybody? Okay, I think everybody is actually busy. So,
hey, jump in and help. Ananya, go take care of tech. Thanks. We really need you to make Sona appear here. And Patricia, I'm going to take your help and let's jump back into conversation with Deepti. I have a few questions I'm gonna read out, but Patricia, feel free to chime in and also comment and give your point of view. So I have a question here which says, how did you shoot the screen with the monkey and the glasses?
That was in Vrindavan. I think they're all over, You just have to wait for it to happen. They're always taking people's cold drinks or wallets or glasses. Yeah, when you're walking in those streets, you're always told, don't have any loose belongings. Don't wear your glasses, don't wear your cap, don't have your wallet. Just, like fold
So
your
did you have
arms
to
and
wait
walk.
for a long time to get the right shots,
Yeah.
or did you just happen to see it?
No, I think the second unit DP spent a whole day shooting monkeys, basically. And for me, there was a funny parallel there. It's what the view is saying there is, yeah, this.
No,
It's
talk
kind
to
of
us about
cheeky.
it. Tell us what you thought would convey with that shot.
No, I mean, there's nothing to convey, but the way those vidwas are walking, and you are transported to a time 600 years ago when Meera must have come there. And there's a voiceover that says, our ancestors came here 600 years ago, and your eye is constantly going to the monkeys. It's just a funny moment.
I agree. It was definitely a memorable moment because somebody put it in there. That's funny. So I have another question which says, was it hard filming the scene at the mosque? I'm guessing they're referring to the scene where you were with the Sufi singers and her.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it was an important moment in the film, and it was a time when Sona was really moved. I think we knew while we were going in there that something, I mean, that we won't be allowed in certain areas, or that women are not allowed to sing in the main foyer. And Sona was quite determined to kind of pay homage to Amir Khusro. So we didn't exactly know how it's going to develop, but it was a moment of sheer beauty. I think all of us had tears in our eyes when the Kawals kind of, joined her in singing even. And she was deeply, deeply moved also. It was a moment where you understand that people can come from completely different cultures and backgrounds, but music is such a huge unifying thing.
Yeah, Patricia, feel free to chime in, but I felt that part, and I felt and I saw how it moved Sona, but I still could not help but understand and appreciate the fact that they appreciate her, but they don't want her to sing there. That they think women are great, but they can't be a part of the system there. So that kind of
Yeah, but all the same, she starts singing and they join her and they're taking, they're singing the same song. It was a moment of immense beauty. And it's, sometimes in documentary, you just have to get in there and hope that magic happens. And this was one of those days.
And I think it's a lot with her personality. She still kept pushing it a little by little and gently and respectfully, but she just kept, it's pretty powerful.
Exactly. Yeah, it is a film about a woman who doesn't shut up. So yeah, she doesn't stop.
That's funny.
It was interesting how they also said
She
that
doesn't.
the men of the writer would write in the female point of view, like as the woman. That was
Yes.
very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, this is something we've grown up with, so it's beautiful that she asks this, and the explanation kind of didn't make, in some way, didn't make. I don't know. It really makes you think. The person who submits has to be a woman. Yeah. It was very moving to hear them. It was very moving for both of us, actually.
Here's another question about the financing. Sona self-financed most of it, correct? Did she get any money from the government?
Sona, and some of it was me. No, there was no government.
Okay, that was Ram's question.
We were hardly able to. Yeah, no, I mean, one thing was that India doesn't have any documentary financing as such. And the way this project grew, I think it was growing from kind of a simmering catharsis, and it's just we made it like this because it was the only way to make it at that point. And government doesn't really fund documentaries of this kind.
Wow.
Yeah, most Indian documentaries made by foreign financing.
I have a question, and I'm going to, if you're comfortable.
The one thing we did get from the government this few weeks ago is a national award, so I'm grateful for that. It took a whole year and a half of journey to get some recognition.
Congratulations on that.
Which one is happy for?
Okay, so Chale, will you please unmute and put on your camera for this time? I know, I think they're still really working, and I think the plan is, and Chale, please feel free to unmute and ask your question, unless you want. Their plan is to put her onto Zoom because she can do that from the phone and then somehow share that Zoom window and then have a conversation. I mean, there are like 100 messages going back and forth trying to get her on the platform. And I'm so sorry for that delay, but you know, we are across continents and things happen. So so I don't see Chale, so maybe he just wants me to go ahead and ask the question. And I love the question. And Patricia, could you compare your own experiences performing for audiences in Europe and in the US with what we see of Sona's experience with her live audience? Like, give us some insight into how is it for you as a female musician?
Well, you know, a few years ago, I actually started a Latina Palooza, you know, during South by Southwest for Latinas to have a place, you know, to perform and to have a light shined on them, to have an opportunity. And it's so hard. I mean, I just released my 7th album on my own label, self-financed, most of them. A couple of them were, you know, with my fans, you know, crowdfunding. But it's, you know, there's that struggle, right, of trying to be a voice for those who don't have one, and then trying to create a platform and to build your own empire. But there's something so empowering about that. And, you know, I wrote a song about the missing and murdered women in Juarez. And when I went down there into Mexico, you know, your life is at stake. You know, they try to hush you and with death threats and everything. So there's always that fine line of trying to be a voice for people that don't have one, and for people that are being murdered senselessly. And when is this going to stop, right? So that's why throughout your film, I cried more than once, because it will always have an imprint on my heart and soul from this day forward. So thank you.
Hey guys, I have
so
some
glad
news.
to hear
We're going to try something completely crazy right now, but we'll see if it works. So Sona is with me in Zoom. She wasn't able to, you know, she's in the mountains right now, and she only has that one login. But I am going to be sharing my my screen, and hopefully you can see Sona there, and she can hear you guys. So please ask the questions that you need to. And if Alka, you can sort of direct people and watch the Q&A. That might be easier because I will be sharing my screen, so I'll only be showing the Zoom screen. Does that sound good to everybody? Alka, you're on mute.
I said I was trying to move out to give her more space on the screen, but I'll stay just to moderate the whole affair. But go Patricia, go Deepti, you guys got it.
Okay, great. Let's do it. You can say hi, everybody's here.
Hi, I'm so sorry for keeping you guys waiting.
Hi. Namaste.
Namaste.
Hi, Sona. What an honor it is to have this opportunity to honor you and Deepti and celebrate your extraordinary documentary. Let's get started. You have a very interesting background. You know, you have an MBA in engineering and you come from a military family. Do you feel that this foundation and educational background has helped you as a performer and activist?
I won't be able to answer that truthfully, to be honest. I'm very happy and proud for all the learnings of having come from a background where I've had to travel so much and shift every 2 years. So you end up being tougher and probably more adaptable to change. That I agree. But apart from that, I think I know enough and more people from my background who are also in the performing arts. But I don't think that they end up getting into trouble as often as I do. Having said that,
were you always a rebel child?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Well, you know,
so I do think, you know, being tuned into music and to other artists from around the world, having a habit of reading and connecting to history and having a love for culture from across ages, or any of that would have helped me connect the dots better as a performing artist. It's possibly not all instinctive, but I've always believed that I don't want to just be one of those artists who is either getting the next big hit song or only creating things of beauty. A big driving force for me always has been about being able to affect change, because I am very fortunate to get very big stages and platforms thanks to my music. The heart of it is my music, and that the fact that the music appeals to people. But just to end up singing or making, that was never enough. So I used my stage, I used my voice to tell stories that inspire me and hopefully inspire, the people who love my music and me. And India is in such an interesting transition point as for me, because it's a very, very young country. Demographically, I'm aware of the fact that 60-70% of our country is below the age of 30. So it really gives me a fantastic, so the gatekeepers may not be those young people, and which is why I'm constantly upsetting the conservative brigade, or even the standard, you might think liberals, but fairly bothered with women like me, because they would rather people like me toe the line of what they think artists should be doing. At the same time, the country is so young and I get so much of love from my audience that I honestly now I can't be bothered about why the gatekeepers have a problem with me and why they would want to shut me up and why they would not want to give me enough songs in the mainstream, because that might make me too big for my boots, or might go around messing their own households and teaching other women to be disobedient and difficult and God knows what else. So yeah, and you must interrupt me freely, because there's a reason the film is also called Shut Up, Sona. I tend to speak up and without breath.
No.
And this can be an endless one-way conversation otherwise.
Ándale, guerrera. Well, in this film, you are building bridges, you are fighting for justice, gender equality, and you have built your own empire, right? Tell us more about being an activist, entrepreneur, and artist. You self-finance this film. You build things. You're
I do believe that more women need to be in charge of matters which are possibly, not about just being a pretty face or a pretty voice, or just, there is a huge pride I feel in the fact that I am an entrepreneur. I am in charge of my destiny, in that sense that I'm not counting on film songs or a big Bollywood hit necessarily for me to survive, because that's when you end up having to have some kind of a compromised voice. You cannot be yourself when you are counting on others to give you all your opportunities. So I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I've managed to, in a sense, even grab literally in the mainstream, because there is a reach and there is a conversion of fandom which is much easier when it comes to being just a film success. But the idea of building a team, creating my own music, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I cannot, I'm on the call right now. So my laptop has arrived, but I think we'll continue in this, too many disruptions. Sorry.
Okay.
I do believe
Sona,
that
can you sing us a
even the act of making this film with Deepti was about taking charge of our destiny. Deepti herself has been a fantastic cinematographer, somebody whose work that I've always loved for the longest time. But it had always pained me to see that she isn't doing or getting to be seen by as many people, or because I have no doubts about my own mission. It's not about being a niche artist where some 100, I have not sought, I want to be independent, but I'm not seeking indie cred. I want to be a mainstream voice. I want to have millions of people show up in my concert, and they do, immodest as I might sound. And I've, when I I felt I was being pushed into a corner for being this person who wants to be in charge. And the work started drying up because people, I think, have an issue with opinionated women and smart people in general in the industry we are in. Although, again, calling myself smart is not particularly modest. And at that point of time, I reached out to Deepti saying, come on, let's not just wait around feeling irritated with the world or waiting for them to discover us. So to say, let's go and make this journey. The journey itself will be fulfilling, but let's see what will come out of it. And interestingly, I feel the process of making this film was very cathartic, not only for her and me, but enough and more people around us who watched us just take, and go and start shooting. I think I've heard enough people say that, okay, maybe we should do similar things and not just wait around and crib and complain about the state of affairs. And we are in a different time now. We've gone through a pandemic. We've gone through a crazy year, and things are again looking bad in India. So I might not be completely in sync with, exactly that time and place of that need to make a cultural impact that we did with the film. But I think even more so now, when I hear of the statistics and how women are holding the shorter end of the stick because of these, the number of women who've been bumped off the workforce. Apparently more women than men have found opportunities in the media space, and they have been hit very badly. The work from home situation is not helping the women in the workforce either. So while I am a musician and mostly a creative artist, a performing artist, I do tune into the social, economic news of the world, and I feel that there's no better time to have been telling this story. While it's a story of a performing artist, it's also speaking for all working women in that sense, people who are balancing, navigating their lives, their partners, their livelihoods, as well as wanting to make an impact. And I don't know if I'm making it, but
yes, you are.
I think it's been a very, it feels, and the film is on the verge of getting released on a platform where an average Indian, anybody should be able to watch it, and that gives me great pride, because it was not about being a festival darling, which again we are very proud of, because we didn't expect to go to so many top international, not only documentary festivals, but we started with the IIFR, which shows very few documentaries, in fact. So we even went to some very prestigious fiction festivals. So somewhere I'm just thinking it was, the 3 years of shooting 300 hours of footage, and I look so swollen and deeply distressed through the film. I feel I keep complaining to Deepti that vanity takes over, saying, why didn't you take any of my glamorous shots when I'm actually it's always, in this most distressed form that this film is capturing me. But that's just the vanity in me. I think Deepti is spectacular in the way she sees India. And she had this whole take of shooting me from an angle, which I thought made me look, and I'm doing the same myself. I'm used to Deepti's angle. I think top down makes me look thinner. But anyway, Deepti was like, but that's the most empowering angle for women. I said, but I look like a giant. Can you stop taking these giant shots of me? But, so we have... we are vain. I mean, artists are vain, but I think it's a starting point. Shut up, Sona. The next one, hopefully, is please sing, Sona, because I want the next film to have lots more music.
Sona, speaking of music, the ladies want you to sing a little something. Can you sing a little song? A part of a song?
Sure, if you tell me what you want to
listen to. We have a lot of favorites.
Is Deepti still here in the conversation?
She is. Deepti, I was just going to say, now that you've heard from Sona, do you want to just unmute yourself and, you can see her, but she can't see you. So maybe it'll be good for you guys to talk for a bit. And then, Sona, we also had some favorites that'll come next.
Yeah, sure. Farmaish is on. I'm normally not very thrilled with that jukebox round, especially in my concerts. I tell people that I'm not up for any requests, but this is going to be different.
We're very thankful for that. Deepti?
Yeah, no, I felt that even when I watched the film again, even though it was like a decision that it needs to leave you hungry for Sona's music, because there's so many songs in there, but there's only little bits of them. So every time I see it, I feel I wish I had heard more of Jugni, for example, because you hear the beginning and then you don't hear the rest. And it's one of those powerhouse songs that she rocks the stage with completely. So that's fun. And there was this the concert in the film, the Kashish concert, had this one of my favorite songs called Raske Bhare Tore Naina. And actually for me the journey is so much to do with having goose pimples listening to Sona in a room that I can never ever tire of it. So Sona, whichever one you feel like.
Yes.
So here's the thing. I'm going to put on so when the interesting part is I have sung a lot of song in films and the mainstream, but what I feel very privileged for is through this film and through Deepti's love for India's culture and roots music, I get to, in a sense, share a side of me and a side of my music, which you will not normally hear, be it in a television interview or otherwise, in the mainstream. And that includes this Raske Bhare Tore Nain, which she mentions, that you see a glimpse of it in the Kashish Cure Festival. I always pronounce Cure, I messed up with my pronunciations. So there we decided, I wanted to collaborate with this Kathak dancer for the longest time. She is the partner of one of my bandmates, Hitesh, who plays the guitar, and she's a fantastic dancer, and she interprets the traditional Kathak form from a very different perspective. And we both decided that we would want to present two ragas. If anybody follows Indian classical music, they would know that we have rags and raginis. There are female versions of ragas called raginis. And we decided to pick up two unusual raginis and merge them together music. And two raginis making blasphemous love, because that would be, so we chose Bhairavi and Todi. And when she sang Raske Bhare Tore Nain, being one of her favorites, it's a traditional thumri. Or yahan pe electricity bhi chale gayi hai abhi. Let's pray to the Lord that the Wi-Fi remains. I'm going to come out to the absolute cold. It's like 2 degrees out and we're not just prepared for this. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah.
So, I talk a lot, so let me just put on the Tanpura instead, because Raske Bhare is Bhairavi. Todi is another raga, ragini I would say, and we fused it together to do this performance. And we thought we were doing something very eclectic, but the crowd just loved it. So I still have memories of how we had 3 encores of this performance. Aaja Savariya तो है गरबा लगा लूं आजा सावरिया तो है गरबा लगा लूं रस के भरे तोरे नहीं सावरिया रस के भरे तोरे नहीं आजा सावरिया तो है गरबा लगा लूं लंगर का करिया जिन मारो, लंगर का करिया जिन मारो, मोरे अंगवा लग जाए, मोरे अंगवा लग जाए, लंगर का करिया जिन मारो। जही चितवत तही, जही चितवत तही रस खर राखत, नाही पड़े मैं का चैना सबरिया, रस के भरे तोरे। So this might not be your standard fare for an evening outing on an opening film, but we are early morning here, and I think it's
Asu again, like my heart is in my chest right now, you know. And Sona, I think right now let me share my screen so you can see who you're talking to right now. So I'm going to share it so you can see everybody else's reaction as well.
that is so sweet of you.
So
Yes.
Patricia and everybody else, you can see them. And, you know, we've just, I think everybody really enjoyed it. Deepti, Patricia, if you have anything to say now, and maybe Alka or whoever can come on the stage, you can probably unpin me so that Sona can also see the rest of the audience.
You know, in the shoot, traveling with Sona in the car always meant that she's singing all the time, huh, Sona? That's so much of your music of your childhood you would sing. And through it, I would think, what should I do? Should I just keep rolling even when we're traveling, even when we're eating, even when we're like almost about to sleep? Because she's singing all the time. And all of it is this goosebumps, you know, space. Yeah. So now you remember that song, you know, those songs from your childhood you used to sing, which your teacher used to do on a terrace.
If you remember the Bedardi Raja song, which by classical definitions would be an item song in film. So there's this film called Delhi Belly, which was, you know, interesting because I feel because of the soundtrack and even otherwise, but the song of mine in that film, Amir Khan was a very kind producer who said that for a change, let's shoot the song with the singer and not on an actor. And I was like, wow, that's very good. But then I'm going to trouble you since you've given me this opportunity. I said, okay, if you're shooting it, we'll have to shoot it my way. I want to dress up in a sari with boots, combat boots, and a tight choti and carry a bass guitar, which is not the kind of imagery you see in Bollywood very often, because women all have to have flowy hair and very dewy lips and keep their lips mostly open so that they look so seductive all the time, or, you know, like kind of innocent all the time. God knows what the... So this one is like, I feel it was quite a shift in terms of a female artist in a film screen, which does get a lot of reach. And even till now, people do come up to me and say, oh God, that music video. So if you guys haven't seen it, please check out the song. And while you mentioned childhood, Deepti, I just remembered our conversation last night when you said, Bedardi Raja gaegi. And I was throwing my usual tantrum with her because I take all liberties with her, saying, no, I'm not going to sing any film songs because that's not what the film is about. It's all my music from the rest of the universe. But Deepti, just for you, just for giving you all this trouble all these years, I shall sing Bedardi Raja. Just that having no musical accompaniments right now, I don't know how pleasant it will be for all of you, but मैं जान लगा के गाती हूँ. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, they can hear you.
नैना बोल रे करार चटका रे, कभी हमारी गली में आके जा रे, खाए जब जब हिचको रे जरा तू भी तो नजर दौड़ा रे हाय 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 दर्दी राजा जरा पास तो आजा मैं तो फूल छड़ी हूँ कि माचिस तू जला जा. Hi. The song is based on a kotha, which is a brothel, and I feel, even expressing female sexuality, not only in India, in any other part of many parts of the world, even now is kind of looked upon as, there are a lot of woke people who would want, but internally we are uncomfortable with women saying that women on top and expressing the fact that they're sexual beings too. I mean, these are things that a lot of people are uncomfortable with. And I think a lot of the music from even India's past, be it the Thumris, the one that I sang, Raske Bhare Turen, very few people know that Thumri, while being a semi-classical form, there's so much of erotic lyrical content and beautiful sensual content which has been hidden or suppressed because obviously the custodians of society feel letting women be this way will ruin the rest of the world. So I just think we are in better times when we can even talk about such things. And and I feel one of my heroes across time has been Mirabai, and you hear her being mentioned in the film many times. And again, while growing up, I always saw her in this very, the visual imagery or even any other imagery that came our way about Meera was that she was this devoted woman singing about Krishna and always within four walls. And that people were worried about showing us, what was very clear to me, that here was a woman from a privileged background who was singing and dancing on the streets, who took up a guru who was from the lower caste, and so she was telling us so much in a subversive way, be it about a more egalitarian world that she was seeking, be it about love and compassion, and also by telling that she was in love with another man, but which was Krishna, because he's a god, you can be forgiven for that. Actually, we found music where she is talking against the whole concept of sati, which was prevalent in Hindu society in certain pockets where women were meant to give up their lives if their husbands died, in Rajasthan in particular, where she was from. And she wrote songs where she said, why should I give up my life for a man when I'm in love with another? And that is Krishna. And so what I found out of all of that was she was being such a badass subversive artist. She was expressing herself artistically and musically, but there's the subliminal undercurrent of social change and wanting to change things, making it a fairer place, wanting I think more balance between the genders, and all these sound like big words, but it's there in her music. And there's so much of sensual poetry in her music again, which was again blasphemous for a woman to be singing and writing and dancing about on the streets. But she did it 450 years ago. So in a sense, I think our country has had some rock stars from a long, long time, not only Meera, but there are even men who have, be it Kabir, be it Khusro, I think they impacted a lot of social change. And those are the artists who are my heroes, I don't know if it comes through, but the film was about connecting those dots across time and across geography. And, yeah, basically that.
Absolutely. And it does come through, I feel, because I think even when you are, whether it was the way that all of these artists, and you've talked about it, and I think the camera dwells on it, but I love the fact that it doesn't like drum it in, but so it was very interesting that people are like, no, this was just the way that they presented themselves. This was Mirabai is this very domesticated, she has a lot of devotion, but then nobody's talking about the other side of her, which you do talk about. And so I was kind of curious, and maybe this has come up also in our questions from our audience members. So I was curious, was this the first time that you were going to see Mirabai's home and where you explored that background and her history? Was that happening while the documentary was being shot? Had you already read a little bit up on her and decided that this is what this was your journey to explore her life?
I'm sorry to say there was no reading involved, at least during in the last many years. I've been talking and singing and exploring Meera for over a decade and a half, if not more, maybe 2 decades. The first time I headlined the Mehrangarh Jodhpur Riff Festival. It's a very prestigious festival where people from around the world come, and it showcases mostly folk artists of Rajasthan, but they also invite some artists like me who they believe can bridge the the folk to the mainstream and get them a larger reach. So in 2009 is when I was called to headline the Riff Festival. I went on stage where you have very high profile invitees of the Maharaja of Jodhpur, from Sting to Mick Jagger, who have attended this festival. And there a lot of elites, who come even from Delhi and fly down from all around the country to attend, and the world. And there I thought it's, an opportunity for me to present Meera musically from my perspective, from my eyes. And it was a full moon night. So, and it was an auspicious, one of those special full moon nights where all women in Rajasthan wear pink color. So I wore this pink dhoti and this pink halter net, and I talk about Meera and how amazing she was, that she was singing and dancing on the streets of a place where even abhi tak you have to wear a ghungat or a veil when it comes to a certain large part of society there. So I was celebrating her for her free spirit and I was singing her music, and the band and the show went on for more than 4 hours. So the audience loved it, and that's what we thought. But next day morning, when there was a brunch hosted at the palace, Umaid Bhavan Palace, where you think all these very open-minded, great elites have come from around the world. There was this hush whisper about how I had, in a sense, insulted the spirit of Meera. And why? Because I was wearing a halter neck, bearing my back and my shoulders and my, God knows, shoulder plates or whatever. So I had well-wishers telling me that you can't come into the land of Meera and insult her by wearing clothes like this while singing her music. And I said, completely missed time, didn't they? And just when we think that it is maybe the other folk who don't understand, but our liberal folk and our educated ones and the ones who are gracing Umaid Bhavan get it, that's not the case. We find conservative thought which wants to, in a sense, choke you anywhere. It's unexpected, the corners you can find them. So to answer your question, I've been singing and talking Meera for the longest time. I think even Deepti was aware of it, which is why very smartly she got it out of me. She would take me to, we would go to places. I was producing the film, so I was very aware of where we were going. It's not that I was not aware of it and just being, surprised anywhere. But yes, Chittorgarh, when we headed towards the Johar Kund, where the women of royal family had all done a mass suicide or whatever, when the Muslim armies were invading or whatever. India is a complex land. There's a lot of history that is whitewashed. So there are a lot of gory details there. But what really shook both of us is the protest marks in the walls of Chittorgarh, where you have nail marks. And we were made to believe that women used to happily go and jump into the fire because that's what they wanted to do to protect their honor. But you realize that they were very, very often fed opium or, sedated to apparently, jump into the fire to save the honor. So this honor residing in women's bodies is such a deeply, disturbing thing, one that definitely needs to be challenged. And that's, I think, different aspects of the story can be found across cultures. So India has its own stories to tell. The good part is, I think we do also belong to a society where reform is welcome. There is a lot of change happening. The fact that 2 lakh people or 200,000 people show up to a show of mine when I'm bringing up these uncomfortable truths, it just shows that there are a lot of good changes happening here. So it's not all doom and gloom, to be honest. I'm quite proud of the pace at which this conversation is happening in the country. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's really interesting because there have been so many movies that have come out that kind of glorify that, recently. Just glorify that whole thing that has happened. I'll hand it over to Alka.
Yeah, I
Patricia.
think Patricia, go ahead, ask your question, and then we'll take a few more audience questions.
Sure. Sona, during the whole film, I can't count how many times I said to myself, why? Like, with so many powerful goddesses in Hinduism, why do some men still treat women as second-class citizens or worse? I mean, that itself made me cry. It's like, you're living it, you're there, but
it's a
hard to wrap your head around
always
it.
been. We're essentially selfish as human beings. A completely disconnected fact is I just read yesterday that in the last 40 years, humankind has wiped out 70% of wildlife. In the last 40 years, just 40 years. So I think we're essentially very, very me, myself and selfish. And when men get a chance to keep one half of the population under their thumb, they couldn't care less for what their ancestors or mythology or religion or culture has to teach them. Because I think the intent of all the symbolism in Hinduism is very beautiful. I mean, there is a concept of Shiv Shakti where the balance in the universe comes from the balance between the yin and the yang, or the man or the woman, or Shiva, who is, a very major god in the scheme of things, and Parvati or Shakti is Durga, who I tap into every time I need my strength. So I think the religion per se has beautiful stories and symbolism to teach us to be better, to be less selfish, to be more balanced. But essentially, it's lopsided because people choose to hear what they want to hear. The reason why I'm in the Himalayas right now is also very interesting. I must share it. Connects with this story and this question of yours. Around 2 weeks ago, the chief minister of a certain state here, a hill state here, in fact, not this hill state, but another hill state, went to an official event. I mean, it was an event for child abuse where he shared an anecdote which was ridiculous, which was about how he met a mother on the aeroplane wearing torn jeans. And he questioned, what would a woman wearing torn jeans teach her children? What kind of values would she be able to imbibe? Because she herself seems to be you can say he was slut shaming that woman while giving this anecdote about how culture is going down the parts because mothers want to wear torn jeans and they have nothing to teach to their children. It was a ridiculous statement to make at these times. I mean, just like somewhere else in Pakistan right now, the Prime Minister has made this idiotic statement about culture seeks to protect women when they cover up. And now women who are uncovering themselves. I mean, so there was a big outrage even in Pakistan from the women activists. And here in India, what I did was, instead of just telling a whole lot of things, because you're sometimes just fed up and you don't want to respond with too many words, I put up a picture of Goddess Durga in her most fierce avatar on my Instagram, where she's wearing hardly anything. You see that picture even in the film. It's my favorite picture, where she's wearing these leaves and she's got her foot over a demon and she's completely bare-chested and she's got this fierce mane and she looks glorious. And that is a very common picture in our religion and in our society. But I just, the chief minister here had said that what will a mother who wants to bare her knees, what values and sanskar will she teach her children? That was his statement. And I responded by putting up this picture and saying, are my knees sanskari enough to show to the world? And I was speaking on behalf of the goddess, of course, to say that the goddess, I mean, she's there in all her glory to tell us that clothes don't determine how you should treat women, and we have this in our, very clearly. But, what happened afterwards was scary because a whole bunch of righteous fools thought I was insulting their religion, their goddess, and I had I was trying to be the goddess or try to tell the world that I'm the goddess. So the number of fools, you can never account for stupidity in this world. One of my favorite musicians, I read his biography before even I heard his music, was Frank Zappa. He said there is more stupidity in this world than oxygen or hydrogen, which is said to be the most abundant element. But you can't account for stupid people. And the number of threats that started coming to me we will file an FIR, we'll take advantage of this blasphemy law, which is a Victorian handover from the British Times. It's one ridiculous. If you hurt my religious sentiments, I can complain and put you behind bars. I mean, we have such a law in place right now, which is so archaic. And they got after me, and one can be very brave and very cool, but it gets to you when you, within 30 seconds, receive more than 3,000 threats. So I had to turn off all my commenting sections. I had to go to the police in 3 states to file reverse FIRs. I was advised to just leave town and keep a low profile for a while, so that it plays on you mentally. As it is, the lockdown and the pandemic is not doing us any favors. And before I forget, I must tell you, and which is why this was a very last-minute plan. I was not meant to be in the Himalayas. I was supposed to have a laptop in Mumbai with a proper microphone and possibly, present a whole different singing session for you guys. But I had to just up and leave and come here. And in a sense, I don't regret it. Sometimes when you take a fight headlong, because I'm not letting go, I'm taking the legal route. I have filed my return FIRs. I'm going to take them up, and I have got a whole bunch of these people banned from social media. I'm speaking to not only Facebook and Instagram, but also to the police authorities who are absolutely backing my cause. So, there are good people out there who are wanting to fight the good fight. I'm not alone in this. And setting an example, I don't want to come across as some virtue signaling fool, because that is also very rampant in our public domain nowadays. People who want to come across as more virtuous and brave than others. But this is a reality. I'm here, I'm fighting this. And it gives me an opportunity to talk about what Hinduism means to me. The fact that it empowers me as a woman, that I have grown up with this very empowering imagery. And there are enough like me around, men and women, who believe that the goddess is meant to tell the average moron that women are powerful. Don't mess with them. So it's up, and there will always be fools around. So it's in our hands to mess with them and fight them and change things. I'm hoping I'm one of them who's doing that. That's all I'm hoping. Yeah.
Fearless warrior. Guerrera.
Okay, I'm gonna. Yeah. Thanks, Patricia. I'm gonna jump in, Sona, and I'm gonna invite Nidhi Trehan to unmute, put on their cameras and ask questions. And in the meantime, I'll just read a few things. There have been some extremely complimentary notes in the chat for the movie as well as for your work. And Ela actually says Sona should never shut up. There are people who are saying they learned so much from the movie. They love the way it's shot. You're feisty, you're amazing, you're real. And I am stalling right now to allow.
As is my director.
She is.
She's all of that behind the camera.
She is. Yeah. She's a powerhouse for sure. So if Nidhi and Nidhi Trehan and Mamta Mishra just want to unmute and come in. I know Nidhi.
Hi, Sona. This is Nidhi from Austin. Just a remarkable film, and I just put in my chat that you bared your soul, and it takes a special type of person to do that, to bare your soul in front of the camera. And Deepti has really captured so much. Words cannot describe it. I have a quick question. So who were the folk singers that inspired you? Because clearly, Jo Aapki Kala Hai, wo itni khoob hai, it's just amazing the kind of influences I feel that would have gone into your art and artistry. So please share with us who were the, some of the inspirations. Thank you.
So from my childhood, I used to see, there was only one channel that we could watch. It was Doordarshan. It was a government channel.
I remember
but interesting. They actually made some fantastic cultural content and music and art. It came into our, so it wasn't, I'm sorry to say, I see a lot of much more base, random content after having 100 channels where not even one channel is playing any music or folk music or any insight into the real India. And Tijan Bai was my first I saw this woman when I think I was maybe 10 or 11 years old, and she was from the heartland, and she would walk on stage with a stick in her hand, with a sari tied up on her waist, and she would stomp on stage while singing the Ramayana. She sang the Ram Leela, she sang the epics of, the Hindu epics, but the manner in which she did it, because she was like, she was like a force of nature. And when I went on to start performing on stage, I guess it was not meant as a compliment. My sisters used to pull my legs and say, "Why do you have to be like Tijan Bai?" I mean, they were like, "Why would you not want to embody this bird singing beautifully?" And that's what gets you more claps and accolades in India. I mean, at least in the spaces that we live in. And I would always choose to be like bearing my heart and my not being afraid of a throaty voice or a big volume or projecting myself in such a way, because I always declare that big belly, big voice. I'm not going to be thin for the sake of, my voice is where my power comes from and the belly is where it comes from. So I love eating. I love being this big Amazonian woman. And Tijan Bai possibly was my first hero. And then came Parvati Baul. I don't know if any of you have heard of her, and you can never experience her on YouTube the way you would if you heard her live. So Parvati Baul is another folk singer from the East, but from the Baul tradition of Bengal and the Pari. And again, like her hair is like, the serpents in her hair, and so beautiful that no amount of fancy creams or makeup can make you look as gorgeous as Parvati. And I saw her possibly over 20 years ago. And that's also the concert where I bumped into Deepti, if I'm not wrong. It was a concert in the Honeyman Circle in Bombay. She's another one whom I find extremely inspiring. And there are too many, in fact. Bhamri Devi. If you haven't heard Bhamri Devi, you must. We presented her, when I say we, I mean Ram Sampath and me. We are a team, and Homegrown Music. We had an episode on Coke Studio India, and Bhamri Devi was presented for the first time in mainstream. I had, of course, met her much earlier because I used to go to Rajasthan to meet a lot of folk singers, because sadly, Rajasthan is amongst the very few places left where folk musicians even have any sort of celebration around them. The rest of the country, I think most of them have to do regular jobs and, then get by to sing for shop. Even right now, I'm here near the Sikkim border. There are amazing Nepali musicians. There are amazing musicians. You can hear them on the streets, but they can't make a living. There is no living to be made, even for the most fantastic musician from any part of the country. But Rajasthan has some patrons left, and I feel I used to go there to be, to meet many of them. And I met Bhamri Devi for the first time over 13, 14 years ago. Now, Bhamri Devi is the mother of 9 children. She's never removes her gungat. She has this red, glorious gungat on covers her face. Of course, her face is a universe into itself. The lines tell you so many stories. She, I kid you not, can fill up a stadium without a microphone. That is the power in her voice, So we got her down to Bombay, and it's very
Sona, I have to say, I've never seen needing a mic either.
Sorry?
If when you sing even without a mic, I mean, I think everything goes silent. I feel even the plants go silent.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. But yeah, Bhamri Devi, so 3 people I would list out here. Tijan Bai, Bhamri Devi, Parvati Baul, and actually that list is endless, but I will stick to 3 women. There are also a lot of men who inspire me, because it's, but I think, yeah, that's a conversation for another day.
Thank you.
Because one doesn't have to run down the other 2.
That's wonderful, and I think that's.
And I think,
Sorry, I was going to say your answer is a great segue into our next question. I have a question here from Piyush. Piyush, if you're here, please unmute yourself and put on your video. And in the meantime, I'll read lots of people saying they love your music, they love you, and they want to know how can they join the good fight. I think you have like a lot of allies right here. And Deepti, I don't know if you're following the chat as well. There are some really cool comments for both you and Sona. And Piyush,
Yes, I
feel
am.
free to
Thank
jump
you.
in.
If that question is for me, I have a very simple answer. I have noticed one thing over the last 2 decades of adulthood in the public domain. I've always believed there are as many, if not more, good people, who believe in the better things, and for fairness. But there are also the people who don't like to get into the mud, so to say, or in the marketplace and roll around in the kachra or the rubbish. They'd rather, and I can understand that. It's not everybody's thing to go and fight out there in the real world. You rather, and especially I notice this in social media because a lot of our lives do reside there in the public domain. And that's the one thing I would like to request people, that when you see a conversation that is happening or somebody standing up for something that you believe in, don't hesitate in just even going there and say, you don't have to give an opinion, but if you did, it would be great. But I would receive a lot of messages in my DM, in my private inbox, people saying, we're proud of you, believe in what you're saying, we do agree with you, and this is what we'd like. But, they would be hesitant to say that publicly because, the messed up ones are the ones who are happy to show their dirty selves in the open. But that's something we need to counter. And over years, I've seen that change also. I've seen a lot of, women never used to speak up a lot on my public timeline on Facebook because it was just a dirty place. And now I see a lot of them speaking up and realizing that they don't have to feel intimidated. They don't have to feel shamed or violated because there is a fool out there, who's more aggressive and just being nasty. So I think that is changing in any case. But what is simplistically, I'm sure a better answer will come to me later in the night. But I would think if you believe in the right things, speak up and stand up when you see something happening, be it in social media, be it in real life, because that support counts for a lot to change things, Feeling that you're alone and vulnerable, it happens very often to me where I know that people support me, but they're not willing to say it aloud. And sometimes that's okay too, because we didn't expect to have our opening in Mami, which was a deep desire for me to start in India. Most people want to start from a big festival abroad. But I was like, I'm seeking relevance in India. I want to make a change here. I want to start in India. But normally, one would think the industry that I belong to would want to sideline me. They would never want to. They're the same guys who are there even in the festival in Mumbai. They're the ones taking the call. But there were enough supporters, people who gave us a spotlight, people who gave us a Critics Award in the very first festival that we played in. And that itself shows that there are enough and more good people out there. So be it in words, be it in actions, just speak up and stand up because you are making a change alongside.
That sounds great.
That
is good. That's a good call to action for everybody who's listening in. So, jump in and be there for the person in the public domain. And I think Piyush is on. So Piyush, go ahead, ask your question, please.
Yeah, no, I think Sona, you addressed it. My question. So what can men do to be real allies in the success journey for women? And I think answered an aspect, but the things that you think are important and how people can be real versus performative allies, it would be great to get your perspective.
I think you have better words than me for sure. Everybody likes to think they're an ally because they're good at heart, but that good at heart is not good enough for me. I need you to show it in actions. And that it comes down to things like, I was on a television show. I was one of the first female judges on the oldest running music show here, Saregamapa. And within 16 episodes, I had to leave the show. And at the face of it, what was put out in the press was she left because, she had a tour to attend, but you should never believe that. Because I had to leave, I was under a lot of pressure when I stood up for the Me Too movement. And people just branded me as a troublemaker, and men and women included, who were very senior up in the ecosystem in the channel, just didn't even bother to, they just didn't bother. they would empathize with me behind, but they could have stood up and said, we are going to do the right thing. We're not going to punish her for something that's not her fault. The other men in the sets, my co-judges, are uncomfortable with me because they think maybe she'll say something about us, which is so ridiculous, because that's, if you understood what the Me Too movement was, it was not about gossip and slander and hearsay. You were supposed to talk your truth, your story. So why the other people, the other men were feeling uncomfortable, Lord knows. And then there were good men who would have never done anything remotely iffy, but they didn't bother to stand up either. People would just rather get on with their lives than, here's an opportunity for you to do something which will stand by you as, you made a difference. Because publicly the message we gave out to a full country is that if you're like Sona and you speak up for the right thing, because when I spoke up about Anu Malik and Kailash Kher and I called them out with my own personal experiences, more than 12 women spoke up after that, including minors who were assaulted by these men. And that itself was public knowledge to a lot of people. Including my husband. My husband knew that, but it's not as if, he is dying to go and he doesn't like to talk to the press. He keeps a low profile in general. So not everybody likes to be rolling in the mud. I understand that. Yet at that time, I wanted at least one man to say, we understand because we've watched this happen in our workplaces too. It's a lopsided power structure. So, I don't know, maybe I'm in the middle of too many things to be able to give a very succinct, filtered, thought out reply. I would just like there are enough and more good men as there are good women, and there are enough and more horrible women as there are horrible men. So it's not that all women are angels and all men are monsters, but more women and men just need to, and especially men, because you have a greater privilege. You have probably lesser to lose. The opportunities have been so far and few for us that I give a longer rope to women who don't want to speak up. Who knows, they might be treated oddly at their workplaces. Whatever it is, but men need to stand up much more and be vocal about what they're seeing around them.
Thanks.
I got very carried away in the emotional things.
No, that was good. And I'm just going to see if there are any other questions.
There was one from Jing. I don't know if Jing, are you still there? She just wanted to ask the question. She didn't want to come on camera, but she has a little baby. Jing, if you're around, please jump in and ask your question. And in the meantime, Patricia, Deepti, if you have something to jump into, please do.
Sure. There's Sona, where there's the music festival that has 50 bands and only 4 female artists, I think. And you tweeted a call to action for female performers to make themselves known, and not one responded. Are their lives in danger if they even try to pursue a career as a performer? Or what's that fear factor? What are your thoughts on that realization? Were you stunned as I was?
The women, over harsh I might sound, the women who made it, they're very far and few between, but they have made it. They have their fancy cars and they have a good bank balance and they are comfortable. They don't want to disrupt the comfort. I'm beginning to lose my patience with them right now, because I can't make excuses for them anymore. Because the fact that they don't realize that they are in such a privileged place, having succeeded despite the odds, and they could, want to make it easier for other women, and they don't choose to. I just feel disgusted with them right now. I was much more understanding maybe 3 years ago when the film was being shot, and I would feel tears and I would feel upset, saying, why is it so obvious to me, and why isn't it to even one more person here? It's such a big country, so many people around. But it isn't. And now I have no empathy for them, to be honest. Women just need to pull up their socks, and especially the ones who've made it, need to go beyond their own.
Can I just add to this?
I want to give you a more gracious answer and more balanced answer. I just feel disgusted that people don't see things for what they are and speak up more often. I do think the younger girls and boys are much more in tune with this aspect, and that's what gives me hope. You know, that definitely gives me hope. I have no hope for the 35 pluses right now. Or even the
Can I
30
add
plus.
to this, Patricia? Yeah, you know, it's Sona is
Yes,
very much
Deepti.
at the forefront, whereas I've been standing outside and watching this whole thing play out. And strangely, I find this question of yours and the last question are totally connected. It's just that if when women bring this stuff up, they do stand to lose something. That's also what Sona mentions in the film when she talks about why a lot of those women didn't reply, because they stand to lose something. And you see that happening with Sona in the that universities for 1 year had shunned her because she raised her voice. There is a huge price to pay, and not everyone has the guts to do it. It takes a lot of fortitude and a spine of steel to go there, you know. So it's not easy for everyone to do at all. So which is also why when we were talking in the beginning and I was telling you Sona is probably the only person who can communicate the narrative of this in our country right now. And you know, as when you asked that there are so many goddesses, so why? Your mind goes to why. But that precisely is very often the narrative used by the powers that be. We are treating you like a goddess. Why do you want something as simple as equality? They are putting you higher, you know, and you're asking for equality. It makes no sense. But that rhetoric is precisely to box women in, you know, which is why it was very, very heartfelt for me to end the film where it did, where you see these goddesses. Incidentally, that temple is a 9th century temple in Orissa, which has animal faces on goddesses, and they have been broken mercilessly. And this is intercut with Sona going on stage with a flowing cape, which basically says, let them deface you if they have to. We have to clue into the power inside us, you know, the goddess power. It's okay if, you know, yeah, but I feel all these things are connected, but Sona has you know, that inner steel to question it and take it on the chin, which is not everyone is able to do that.
No, and Sona has said in the past that change does not happen overnight, but with the release of your film now, I think you're hopeful that there will be a change. There's got to be. It's such an astounding film. It has to change, you know, start a wave.
I think Deepti too. I think you've done such a wonderful job showing that, and you know, like really doing. I think all of the comments I've mentioned such a beautiful job with showing so much imagery as you're showing, you know, Sona's life as it's happening, plus the imagery as you go through India, as you go through, like, talk to different people and all of that stuff. It comes through really well. I wanted to say there's a question from Nora. I'm going to let her ask it. And I think, Alka, there might be other questions in the Q&A section that you might want to look at.
Hi. So, yeah, I loved the film. I thought it was really incredible. Sona, I kind of have a question for you. I wanted to know, as far as like the Indian music industry right now, I mean, what's your perspective on like new artists entering the industry, like new women artists specifically? Is it better than maybe it's ever been? Is the mainstream just like still too dominated by like the voices that are going to try and keep women down? Is like independent music a viable alternative for the latest generation of women artists? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
So let me start by saying, interestingly, India has had a history in the mainstream of very powerful female artists. I mean, our biggest leading lights were Lata Mangeshkar and Asha Bhosle, two sisters, who ruled the roost for decades, and they dominated even over the men. So it's not as if India hasn't seen very dominant female artists in the sense typically of success in the mainstream. So the last, I think, 20 years, it's interesting how we always assume that things in the past were bad, and everything is getting better because we are becoming so modern and technology is on our side. But when it comes to the mainstream industry in India, we seem to have regressed as we have progressed. That's the sad truth. So it's not that it was all doom and gloom. I think we had some very, very literate, liberal poets and thinkers and writers, and there's a lot of people in the industry, in the entertainment industry, that ensured that there was a place for even female actors and roles that were written, songs that were made, which highlighted the feminine perspective in a very beautiful way. So we grew up with a lot of that also. Mm-hmm. But what I have noticed in the last 20 years is that, I don't know, the business aspect of things, or testosterone has definitely taken over. There's hardly any breathing space for women. And that is specifically in the last decade and a half, 2 decades. Women are objectified much more so. That seems to be one way to sell or get your numbers. Social media itself is feeding into that ridiculous thing, because Instagram teaches me every day that if I could, just objectify myself a bit more, wiggle my bums while doing yoga, nothing to do with spirituality or yoga, I would get many more numbers. Those numbers will feed into brand and brand managers thinking, oh, she's an influencer because she's objectifying herself. And it's like an endless cycle of, so it's not all like things are terrible now and things. So it's all mixed up. So I think there is a place for new artists who have a very specific, voice. And it's not easy at all, because finding allies of any kind, even in the commercial world, is what. So we, as of now, don't even have a music industry, I must tell you. The music industry mostly is a subset of the film industry, which is the biggest problem. And there are few of us who are fighting to change that. We do want to have a world of our own, which is only for music's sake and not to sell a film. So that's been a peculiar part of our industry in terms of context. But I must also say, India lives in so many different worlds. It has different worlds into itself. So when I'm talking about these folk musicians like Bhamri Devi, you would be shocked that she might not make that much of money, but she has fans, because it is a poor country. She has fans who show up. 900,000 people would show up in an interior hinterland to witness the legend of Bhamri Devi. So, and that world will not maybe mean much to you and me, because we think she's not making so much money. She's not Beyonce. She doesn't have a private jet. She might not, because we live in a very different, she lives in a different economic strata. But it's not that people aren't appreciating her and her music. So I find it deeply distressing that it's mostly in our segment where the monies are huge, the brands are there, the sponsorships are there. You have a Bacardi sponsoring an event called a NH7 Weekender, which is a big festival, one of the biggest music festivals. Big brands, big liberal folk sponsoring, putting millions of rupees into it, but they don't care to add up the numbers that there is no female representation. That's what bothers me. So I think it's about like shaking those guys up and questioning them, because all in all, India, as music lovers, I don't think the audience differentiates between men and women. They love women artists as much as they love men. Mm-hmm. It is something to do messed up with our gatekeepers and our educated folk, liberal folk, who are thinking that, they need to back just one kind of thing to make easy money. If it's a woman, objectify her, make her an item, show the cleavage, show your this thing, and we'll sell that. Men get to do a wider range of emotions. That wasn't the case 20 years ago. It wasn't. So I'm hoping we can go back to the older times, strangely enough. That would be great to start with. If somebody just noticed that radio itself doesn't play female voices. Out of 100 songs, if only 8 songs are women, people should be bothered about it. Even the people who are in charge of all of this. So I think our film is a means of even screaming this out loud and shaking things up, because some people are just too complicit, struggling with their own lives. So who wants to care about these matters, right? But hoping we change that right now.
Yeah. I think y'all will.
Okay, I'm going to jump in and read one comment from Mirain. She says, amazing, love the film. I love the song and the dance and the scene that goes between the rehearsal and the theater. Love your music and passion, and much success to your mission from Mirain. And I think, Deepti, we should be closing up, but we'd love to have a song from Sona. Sona, if you're up for it, is that something we can do on our way out?
Since you mentioned the song which cuts between the rehearsal, it's a ancient lyric poem by Amir Khusro. It's, I think, if I'm not wrong, 900 years ago, but I shouldn't commit to the exact date. But it's a brand new interpretation of those lyrics. The composition is, of course, new. I sing that. It's about unconditional love, and it's a very brave song for the times it was made in. I believe it was a man singing to another man, because Amir Khusro had a deep love for his, Guru and Murshid. And there is a dargah called the Nizamuddin Dargah in Delhi that you must visit if you come to Delhi. It's very beautiful, full of, you see it, I'm talking to the custodians of that dargah when I say, why don't you let women sing here? Because it's women are not allowed to sing in the dargah. And ye gana Amir Khusro ka hai, he's singing it to his beloved, but yeah, you can interpret it your way. I don't know how it is without music, but you must call me to wherever you guys are in the US with my band to perform a proper concert. That would make me the happiest.
We will.
Yes. मैं तो पिया से नैना लड़ाई रे, 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 घर न हरी का वो हरी कहे सो करे, घर न हरी का वो हरी कहे सो करे, मैं तो पिया से नैना लड़ाई रे, मैं तो पिया से नैना लड़ाई रे, खुसरो निजाम के बलि बलि जाइए, खुसरो निजाम के बलि बलि जाइए, खुसरो खुसरो निजाम के खुसरो निजाम के, मैं तो पिया से नैना लड़ाई रे, मैं तो पिया से नैना लड़ाई रे. I really don't know how this is translating through Zoom to something else, through no microphone. So I hope I'm not embarrassing myself here.
Not at
it
all.
is not particularly professional.
My God, you're being such a sport. You're being such an amazing sport, and this is truly a technological marvel. You're on Zoom in the hills. You're being streamed from Ananya's phone onto the streaming service, and it's crazy how many loops this has gone through. And we so appreciate you joining us, even though this is all really hard. So thank you for coming. Deepti, thank you. I know you have a flight to catch. Patricia, thank you. Patricia, you've been so fabulous. Yes.
And I will end with, I think, what is a motive of the film, Shut Up Sona. बेखौफ आजाद है जीना मुझे, बेखौफ आजाद है रहना मुझे, बेखौफ आजाद है कहना मुझे, बेखौफ आजाद है रहना मुझे. So fearless and free, let's all be.
Thank
That
you.
was beautiful. I just can't imagine how well it's coming over on Zoom. I can't even imagine how it must sound there in your presence. You know, Deepti's been saying that she gets goosebumps. But thank you so much, Sona, for joining us. I am going to stop sharing my screen, and maybe Shweta, you can jump onto the Zoom really quick as well.
Whoa, Deepti, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
She was amazing.
Yeah, she is.
And thank you for joining us, Patricia. Thank you so much for being here. I think we're going to get out of the presentation mode and go back into the lobby. But I need one of the other moderators here. Is Christine around? Christine, can you hear me, or Ananya? Somebody hop in and put us back into the lobby on the tables. So if anybody has any further questions, they can go and find Patricia and Deepti. Deepti, are you able to stay with us for 10 minutes, or do you need to run? Totally okay if you need to run.
Yeah, no, I can. Patricia, thank you so much, Patricia. It was lovely talking to you. I really look forward to, hearing more of your music. I really look forward to it. And you're looking gorgeous.
Oh, you too. Thank you.
I actually wanted to show you a picture of Sona in one of the songs she sang. And she's got a rose in the hair, pretty much like you.
Oh, yes, I saw. Yes, I saw that.
That looks a lot like you, Patricia, in that picture.
Beautiful.
Sisterhood, yes, the sisterhood.
Sisterhood.
So I'm going to put everybody on the tables and we can continue our conversation there.